During my sophomore year of high school, my parents finally couldn't stand each other anymore and their relationship imploded. One of them took my younger brother, the other took my younger sister. As for me, they both shirked responsibility, not wanting me. When I came home for the holidays, only me and my luggage were left at home. Left with no choice, I had to find a part-time job at school. 1. Because the school was reluctant to let us have a break. After the start of the new semester, I didn't go home for 2 weeks straight. The third week of continuous study began. The money I brought from home was almost used up. Never having been one to save money, I was as poor as a church mouse. Seeing as I still had a week to stay at school, I really couldn't bear being broke any longer. Finding a time when no one was around, I used my skilled technique. I stole my phone from the office safe, the one I had submitted at the beginning of term. I originally wanted to ask my family to transfer me some money. I had just opened my phone and saw my 50 yuan balance. When it jumped to the home page, I suddenly noticed that a week ago, my parents had each sent me a message. My dad said, "Your brother's with me, you're with your mom, from now on ask your mom for money." My mom said, "Your sister's with me, you're with your dad, from now on ask your dad for money." Sigh, can a divorce be this synchronized? Seriously? You guys really divorced? I doubtfully typed out a line and sent it to my parents respectively. I received 2 red exclamation marks in return. Looks like it's really true. Deleting me just like that, not even thinking about how I'm going to survive at school. My parents are really too rebellious. Before I could send anything else, a series of footsteps echoed from afar outside the office. I quickly turned off my phone and threw it back into the cabinet. The moment I rushed out of the office, I bumped right into my homeroom teacher. Her eyes were sharp as she sized me up and down for a while. Just as I was getting nervous enough to sweat, she smiled and patted my shoulder. "What's with the tension, missing your phone? Don't worry, it's a double weekend this week, just 5 more days and you can go home, hang in there." I obediently nodded and found an opportunity to slip away. After walking a good distance, I couldn't help but sigh. What a pity. Before entering the office, I had a home, but after coming out, I didn't. 2. After paying for my lunch, I glanced at the card reader. There were 20 yuan left on my meal card. I rummaged through my belongings in the dorm. I managed to find only 2 coins. Unfortunately, these 2 coins couldn't be used to recharge the meal card. The cafeteria's policy was that you had to recharge at least 100 yuan at a time. It was only Monday today. 20 yuan had to last for 4 days. Fate was against me. If I had known that I would be facing this kind of difficult situation not long after starting high school, I definitely wouldn't have chosen this school. Our school's cafeteria was expensive and the food was awful. The selection was also limited. Those that were more expensive weren't as bad tasting. Those that were cheaper tasted the same. For example, a small meat bun was 3 yuan, a medium soy milk was 3 yuan and 50 cents, vegetarian dishes were 5 yuan, and meat dishes were 10 yuan. Just to mention it. We all called it the aristocratic cafeteria. So that night, I had a bowl of watery plain congee in front of me. The cafeteria, in order to show that it wasn't such a rip-off, specially offered plain congee and rice for free, with free refills. When school first started, I was disdainful. Now, I quietly refilled a third bowl while no one was around. I scooped the large spoon down hard, scooping out a full serving of rice. Unfortunately, I've mastered this skill. I probably won't be able to be a cafeteria auntie in the future. While drinking the congee, I made a dining plan for myself. Based on the healthy principle of eating well in the morning, eating a full lunch, and eating less in the evening. My plan was as follows. Drink the milk in the dorm in the morning, supplement calcium and protein, and most importantly, it doesn't cost money. Eat more at the cafeteria for lunch, a plate of plain vegetables for 5 yuan, a bowl of free rice, and eat until full. Drink some free congee at the cafeteria in the evening, which can also help with weight loss, and most importantly, it doesn't cost money. The plan was to wait until most of the people in the cafeteria had left before I went to eat, so I could also mix in with the remaining dishes. My plan went on quietly. Until Wednesday, when my roommate Mia suddenly asked me to have lunch together. 3. Although Mia and I were classmates and roommates. But we weren't really that close. Coincidentally, I've always been embarrassed to refuse other people's invitations, especially those from people I'm not close to. She was particularly cute. When Mia's watery eyes curved up as she asked if I wanted to go eat together at noon, I was momentarily charmed and nodded without thinking. By the time I realized the situation, we were already walking together to the cafeteria. Mia bought a bowl of beef noodles. Although I really didn't want to show the fact that I was a poor college student. But I still bowed my head in reality. I planned to repeat my old trick and order a 5 yuan vegetarian dish. But the heavens don't always grant wishes. The cafeteria sent less vegetables today, and the 5 yuan vegetarian dishes were sold out. The cafeteria worker picked up the bowl and asked as he handed it to me. "Why don't you treat yourself today, get an 8 yuan half meat and half vegetarian?" I shook my head, took the bowl, and righteously refused. "Sorry, I'm trying to lose weight. The challenge of 20 yuan for 4 days hasn't been successful yet, comrade still needs to work hard. If I spend the money today, I'll be even more out of control tomorrow." Although there were no vegetables, I couldn't starve myself. I took 3 cornbread and congee. The feeling of fullness was maxed out. Mia looked at my combination and was silent for a while. "Are you dieting so hard? But this is all carbohydrates, isn't it?" "It's okay, today is a cheat meal," I replied casually. But as I was eating, I suddenly felt like my consciousness was starting to become unclear. 4. The Mia in front of me had 2 overlapping images in my eyes. The cafeteria tables, chairs and people became blurry. I couldn't help but let my thoughts wander. Was it because I studied too hard all morning? Or could it be that even such an expensive cafeteria would use poison? Would I get money if I reported it? "Hey, Annie, wake up." I lifted my heavy eyelids and looked at Mia, who had spoken. At this time, she anxiously came to my side and pinched my arm. "You wouldn't have carbohydrate shock, would you?" I opened my mouth, she quickly leaned into my ear, and I said, "Can you do me a favor?" She replied without hesitation, "What do you want me to do?" "I'll definitely do it." It would be a lie to say I wasn't touched. I struggled to stand up and pointed to the leftover cornbread on the table. "Help me, take me and that cornbread back to the dorm together." "No, Annie, are you crazy?" These were the words I heard when I was most conscious. 5. When I woke up again, it was already after 5 in the afternoon. Mia had just pushed the door open from outside the dorm. Seeing that I was awake, she pointed to my desk. "Don't worry, I got you a leave of absence. Here, your cornbread. You just fainted like that. If the cafeteria worker hadn't come over to help me, I wouldn't have been able to pull you back." I smiled sheepishly. It was probably because I hadn't been eating enough these past 2 days. I can't let my consciousness continue like this, I have to earn some money. But what can I do at school? The school doesn't even have a bubble tea shop for me to shake tea at. I didn't expect that the work would come that night. During evening self-study, the teacher made a surprise check of the practice papers and found that more than half the class hadn't done their homework. In a fit of anger, she immediately decided to reward everyone with copying the English words of that unit in the textbook 15 times. Checked the next afternoon. After class, everyone complained. Mia was at the desk next to me. She lay on the table and sighed, "Are you kidding me? My hand will be useless after copying 15 times. I had done my homework and didn't need to copy. Based on repaying the favor from the afternoon, I walked to her seat and poked her arm. "Why don't I help you copy?" Mia looked up happily. "Are you really going to help me copy?" Her voice was loud, attracting the attention of the people around her. They swarmed over. "Annie, we're classmates, right? Please copy for me." Seeing this situation, an idea struck me. I cheered myself up in my heart and replied, "It's possible. But I charge 5 yuan a copy?" I was originally worried that my price was too high. I didn't expect there to be more people around me. 6. I was here first. Don't fight with me, copying 2,000 words for 5 yuan, plus 1 free evening self-study, it's a win-win situation no matter how you look at it, huh? I was surrounded. Mia was squeezed in the crowd and anxiously grabbed my sleeve. "Don't forget what you said." I couldn't copy that much in a short time. I had to take 3 or 4 orders first, plus Mia's. After evening self-study, I took a stool and sat on the balcony in the dorm, working late into the night. Fortunately, only Mia and I lived in the dorm, and the other 2 had moved out because they couldn't get used to living there. Mia would wear an eye mask to sleep, so I wasn't afraid of disturbing others. I wrote with 2 pens in one hand, writing furiously. I just wanted to let customers see my serious attitude and neat handwriting. Remember to give me a good review next time. I rushed as fast as I could. Finally, before class the next afternoon, I handed the copies to my classmates with dark circles under my eyes. I also received the 5 yuan in return from their hands, which shone with hope. I slept through an afternoon class with the 20 yuan in my pocket. In my dream, I dreamed that I had become a multi-billionaire. I woke up again. A classmate was knocking on my desk, asking if I was still copying. I shuddered all over. The 100 yuan bills that I had counted until my hands were soft in my dream had become the purple number 5 in reality. I silently took the 5 yuan. Don't worry, the service is guaranteed to be satisfactory. While copying, I thought, this is the primitive accumulation stage of capital. And I'm copying in English. Even more flavorful. It seems that I will be going to the international stage in the future. 7. During this week at school, I accumulated 50 yuan in primitive capital. But I decided to stop. As for why, I felt like my money hadn't arrived yet, and my nearsightedness was about to get worse. So my copying part-time job came to an end for the time being. After that, I would occasionally meet classmates who asked me if I wanted to copy for them. I began to learn to use not having enough time as an excuse. Of course, if the price was high enough, we could talk about it separately. I finally made it to the holidays, and everyone else was gone. But I didn't leave. I was always thinking about the few free bowls of congee at the cafeteria. Don't want something for free, don't want it for nothing. The cafeteria worker glanced at the large number of empty seats behind me. But she didn't say anything, silently adding a spoonful of meat sauce to the bottom of the bowl she handed me. I ate and was moved to tears. Damn it, I finally got to eat meat. After eating and drinking my fill, I took my luggage and got on the bus home. The 50 yuan in my phone balance also became 25 after the taxi fare. I opened the door to my house and went around at once. All of my dad's figures in the study were taken away. My mom's clothes and bags in the cloakroom now only had empty dust. Even the beds in my brother and sister's children's room were taken away. Only my room remained the same. I guess they really divorced. Oh, how could they remember to take everything? Oh, how could they leave me behind? It's a good thing they left me, the biggest one. If it was the two younger ones, I don't know how I would have left them. They are so tiny, how would they live? Forget it. It's not the first time my parents have done this. When I was little and didn't have a younger brother and sister, they often went out to travel. They left me at home by myself, going to and from school. Sometimes they would forget to leave me money. When my grandma found out about this and came over, I went from not knowing how to cook, to being able to cook food that was edible. 8. The moment grandma pushed the door open, I was standing on a chair spreading flour on the cutting board, beating eggs to make myself a bowl of birthday noodles. Turning around and seeing grandma, I was very happy and called her happily. Grandma. Hey. She lovingly picked me up from the chair. She told me to go to the living room and watch TV. I heard her scolding my parents on the phone. Finally, she seemed really angry and said, "If you don't come back, I won't give you money next month." Why did she say that? Actually, my dad is a painter. But he doesn't go out to work. He tells me that no one in the world can understand the value of his paintings. Later, my parents had another fight. My mom sneered at me, "Your dad is lying to you. He doesn't make money because your dad is self-righteous and refuses to take on jobs, and actually, they're not that good looking." My mom, when she was young, was tricked by my dad's painter's spirit. The two talked about ideals and the future. At the time, my mom didn't know that integrity can't be eaten. After she found out, they had already just barely made it through. My parents often belittled each other in front of me. But they loved each other to death. My mom is a cosmetic review blogger, but she buys more than she earns. So the family is quite poor. They rely on grandma's help every month. After making that phone call, grandma turned to look at me, her eyes filled with uncontrollable apology. "I'm sorry, dear, when grandma was young, I spoiled your mom too much, and now she doesn't even care about you." "No, it's good as long as grandma is here." I rushed up and hugged her. My parents, cut off from their source of travel funding, had no choice but to return home obediently that day. Thanks to grandma, I had a happy birthday. I wish that my parents would always stay home. I also wish that grandma could always be with me. 9. My wish was both fulfilled and unfulfilled. Starting the second year, my parents really did stay home all the time. In the third year, my mom gave birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. My mom and dad argued endlessly over what to name them. I didn't pay any attention, instead staying at the hospital to be with my grandma, who gave me my name. Grandma heard that my parents had been arguing endlessly over the names of my younger siblings, and she snorted coldly. "Humph, the name I gave is the best. Annie, you remember this, your name is what I hope will bring you peace and joy for your whole life." She stroked my head, her voice barely audible. "Be sure to fulfill my wish." Later, grandma left the house to me and gave the money to my mom and dad. In front of my parents, she said that the savings were only a small amount, so it was better to give me the house. My parents had no objections. They had said that the house was in a remote location and was old. Later, grandma patted my hand and said, "At least it gives you a place to go back to." She said she was going to give me a surprise when I turned 18. I shook her arm and said I just wanted her. Grandma smiled but didn't say anything. I think grandma must have guessed it at that time. Guessed that she would leave me. Guessed that my parents would just get divorced like that. At that time, my parents finally decided on the names of my younger siblings, one chosen by my mom and one chosen by my dad. They happily called out the names they had chosen in the living room, and my younger siblings babbled in response. I hugged a small porcelain jar and hid in my room. I thought, it's a good thing my name was chosen by grandma. That way, we'll never forget each other. 10. Memories flashed through my mind. My parents' divorce was hasty, and they didn't leave me anything. I couldn't even get through to their phones. Left with no choice, I smashed my piggy bank. The scene of a floor full of coins and red bills in my imagination didn't appear. There were only 2 green 50 yuan bills. They were still the ones I had impulsively saved when I bought this piggy bank. Sometimes I really admire my extravagant spending habits. Luckily, this money was enough to recharge my meal card once. Once the weekend was over and I returned to school, the balance on my phone was even lower, leaving only a zero. All my assets were only 150 yuan in cash. I really wanted to apply for a poverty student quota. But I didn't even have my household registration book with me. I was so poor that I wanted to steal. No sooner said than done. That night, after evening self-study, I quietly ran to the garbage dump under the cover of darkness. Before coming out, I had specially borrowed an extra-large garbage bag from Mia. She asked what I was going to do, and I said I was going to do something big. She advised me to turn back to shore from this endless sea of suffering, and then pulled out a sack from a corner and handed it to me. I nodded. I just don't know if picking up scraps at the garbage dump counts as petty theft. 11. I still felt like it was winter in March of spring. It was so cold at night. I hesitantly put on a lot of clothes before going out. At night, there were only dimly lit street lights around the garbage dump, and there weren't many people. Probably because it was too cold. Even I, who was wrapped up in a ball, couldn't help but shiver. But the fire of wanting to make money was burning fiercely in my heart. Cold is not scary, poverty is scary. I picked out the plastic bottles and aluminum cans hidden in the pile of garbage. Because our school was built on a small hillside, the location was also remote. There were very few commuting students. Entering and leaving the school gate also required a commuter pass, which many people didn't have. The school only sold mineral water. So the number of these bottles and cans wasn't that many. Using the dim light on the ground, I tiptoed and put the plastic bottles and aluminum cans into the sack. I had already made a plan. Collect them tonight, and take advantage of the commuter students leaving school at noon tomorrow. Take my counterfeit pass, flatten the items, and take them out of school to sell. Who knew that I had just packed a bag? A bright light shone on the ground from a distance. Hey, who's there sneaking around in the middle of the night? I dodged the light and looked closely. It was the school security guard on patrol. Due to the noise of dragging the scraps. After weighing the pros and cons, I dropped the bag of scraps and ran to the back of the teaching building in a panic to hide. I wanted to find an opportunity to take out that big bag and hide it. But the security guard was patrolling back and forth in this area, and he muttered to himself as he walked. Damn it, where did that big dumpling come from just now? As the dumpling, I was silent. Faced with the punishment of being caught for not returning to the dormitory at night, I had to swallow my anger. Left with no choice, I had to go back to the dorm first. After taking a shower, I lay in bed, planning to get up early the next day. To hide that bag of stuff. 12. Well, if things don't go wrong, they definitely will. When I woke up the next day, it was already 6:30 on the alarm clock. It felt like everyone in the school was awake. I still held a glimmer of hope and went around the garbage dump while sweeping the public area. The auntie who was usually responsible for cleaning all the corners of the school was standing in the garbage dump at this time. My homeroom teacher was usually familiar with her. The two were chatting. My eyes widened, and I pricked up my ears to listen. The homeroom teacher said, "You came at 6 o'clock, right? That's so early, you've worked hard." The auntie smiled. "It's not hard, it's good to have this job. It's not easy for you either, a woman raising 3 kids, and your husband is in the hospital," the homeroom teacher sighed. But the auntie shook her head. "It'll pass after persevering. This school even lets me sell scraps, it's very good. The students are also very good, and sometimes they give me water. Look, I don't know who even helped me collect all the scraps last night, it's much easier to do today." My movement stopped. After the homeroom teacher left, I lowered my head again to sweep the floor. My eyes glanced at the busy figure beside the trash can from time to time. So she has to rely on this to support a family. That's so hard. Looking at it this way, my part-time job of picking up scraps is about to end again. Anyway, it won't matter if I earn a little less. I only have myself to support, but she has to raise 3 kids. 13. Our class went to the auditorium for class meeting. The homeroom teacher stood on the stage and gave a speech. She said that teenage rebellion is normal, but one thing is very important, which is to control your temper, and you can't just ignore everything when your temper flares up. After she finished speaking, the whole class applauded politely. I applauded very vigorously. For no other reason. I just felt that my parents were especially suitable to take this class. I had borrowed the teacher's phone to call them several times. All I heard was, "The other party is on the phone." I knew that was the polite way of saying that the call was hung up. The phone was afraid of making people angry, so it spoke politely. It had been a month since their divorce. March passed in the blink of an eye, and April came. I still hadn't earned any money in the past 2 weeks. My expenses had also increased. After returning to school last time, in order to avoid getting sick, I changed my meal standard to eating meat one day and vegetarian dishes the next day. On average, it cost 8 yuan a day. This was also a bit expensive for me, who was so poor that I couldn't even take out 2 mao of spare money. Perhaps because I usually tried so hard to stretch 1 yuan into 2. Mia finally saw my embarrassment. That noon during lunch break, she asked me, "If there's a job that can make money, but it's easy to be punished by the school, would you do it?" I was a little puzzled. Are there any ways to make money at school that don't get punished? She choked. Don't say it so bluntly. 14. Annie, I remember you have a pass, right? When Mia asked this, I remembered. I had specially dug it out before I wanted to sell the scraps last time. Speaking of which, that pass had a very special origin. I bought it from a senior in his 3rd year of high school. Although it was fake. But it was made so meticulously that you couldn't tell unless you compared it carefully. The senior said that he was bored during evening self-study, so he carefully observed other people's passes for a long time, revised many versions, and even asked someone to trick the teacher in the printing room and used the school printer to make it. Originally, the degree of realism after getting it was so amazing. He planned to make a few more. But the teacher in the printing room didn't believe him anymore. And his repeated attempts to make it again after returning home for the holidays also failed. He was so angry that he casually clipped the previously printed version in his holiday homework. And threw it away when he cleaned up after the holidays. So at first, the senior didn't plan to sell it to me, he wanted to use it himself. But I didn't expect that when I was in the 2nd semester of my 1st year of high school. The senior's parents saw that it was the 2nd semester of his 3rd year of high school, and they decided to get him a commuter pass on a whim. He got a real pass. He was so happy that he sold the fake one to me for 50 yuan. And I, in turn, stuck my photo on the pass. Then I used a small knife to scrape off the old handwriting on it little by little. Finally, I wrote my name in a flamboyant manner, Annie Carter. A fake pass that was as good as the real thing was made. I took out the pass from my bag and handed it to Mia. I do, but what does this have to do with physical labor? By the way, it might not be convenient if you want to use it. I feel like it'll be transparent if you scrape it with a knife one more time. Mia took it and praised it repeatedly. It's really real. If it was mass-produced, it would benefit the whole school. I have that idea, I nodded in agreement. I looked at Mia, trying to find someone who shared my ambition to mass-produce it. The moment I met my eyes, Mia felt my expectation. She curled her lips. Forget it, you better not think about it, I'm afraid the principal will beat you to death. It instantly drowned my heart that wanted to roam freely. That's right, what do you want me to do? Tomorrow, help me bring a pancake from the pancake shop under the school slope, bring me a pancake. 15. I was originally looking down flipping through my bag. When I heard her words, I suddenly looked up. No, Mia, are you serious? Wouldn't I get beaten by the principal too? She smiled awkwardly. This is a different time, you know, as long as you have this school pass, you can freely enter and leave the school, help me bring something, earn some travel expenses, right? As if afraid that I wouldn't agree. Mia gestured the numbers 1 and 0. She generously stated that as long as I helped her bring a pancake tomorrow, she would give me 10 yuan for travel expenses. Tomorrow is my birthday, my parents are busy doing business and can't pick me up. I don't have any other wishes, I just really want to eat the pancake from the shop under the school. Okay? Hearing this, I had even less reason to refuse. Her birthday wish was so simple, and she still wanted to give me money. I'm especially not a fan of being forced, but I'm especially susceptible to kindness. I agreed. Mia jumped up and down happily in front of me. After she went to bed, I sat on my bed and sighed deeply again. Poor thing, poor thing. The boarding students who have been suppressed for too long actually have such simple desires. I don't plan to take her money. I don't plan to take the money for the pancake either. It's her birthday. Since I'm her friend, I have to show her some concern. Although I don't have much money, I can still afford a dozen yuan or so. As long as I eat less at that aristocratic cafeteria. It's just that I haven't tried going out this early in the morning. In the past, I would sneak out of school after school in the afternoon. I only used the pass to improve my meals. Because the dormitory has to check in at night and at noon, I can't get in if I go out. Based on my impression of the rules. And the experience I've gotten from my classmates this year. I came to a conclusion. I can't do it at all. I can't buy that pancake early in the morning at all. Commuting students are not allowed to bring any food into the school. Even the milk in hand will be confiscated. Conversely, the school allows commuting students to go to the cafeteria to swipe their cards for breakfast. But I can put it in my bag, as long as the school leaders don't impulsively check. They haven't checked this semester. But then again, there are so many directors and security personnel at the school gate. If I go directly against the crowd, the surroundings are noisy, and I walk my own path, right? Unless I can't wait to be caught and lectured in the security room. Otherwise, going out directly from the gate is out of the question. And the school doesn't even have a back door in order to manage the students well. It's just that I've promised Mia so confidently. It feels especially embarrassing to go back on my word. After thinking about it, I still went down the old path. Decided to do something that would get the principal to beat me. Giving away a punishment gift package if caught. Climb over the wall behind the dormitory to buy it tomorrow morning. 16. Before evening self-study that day, I came to the wall behind the dormitory to practice. Actually, this wall isn't that high. The shortest one is only about 1 meter and 80 centimeters. What a coincidence. I'm 1 meter and 65 centimeters. Fortunately, the school is planning to build a new teaching building recently. I asked the workers at the construction site for a few cardboard boxes. Adding some stones and waste paper inside, it was actually quite stable to step on. The most important thing in doing this kind of thing is not being careful, but being bold. This was my summary after standing on the wall. When I got to the top of the wall, I found that there was no place to put my foot outside the wall. With a firm heart, I kicked my legs. My feet were already on the ground. Sometimes I have to marvel at how tigerish young people are. It's just that I jumped a little too hard. Later, I limped around the corner to the school gate. On the way back to the classroom, I had only one thought in my mind. It's a good thing I brought a counterfeit pass before coming out. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to climb back. When I officially put it into practice the next day, I got up at 5:40. The toilet lights in our dormitory were already on before dawn. When I came out of the dormitory building, I looked around. Luckily, there was no one around. The dormitory supervisor was lazy and often left the door unlatched even when it was closed. This made it easy for me to go out early. I took out the boxes I had hidden last night and stepped on them one by one. After climbing to the top of the wall, I threw the bag with the small blanket to the ground outside. It wouldn't hurt to jump down now. Although my feet were a little numb when I landed, I quickly got up and rushed down the slope along the small road. Why not take the main road? Because I was afraid of being caught. Some school leaders like to get up early to run at school. Some for their health. Some to practice catching young couples on the playground at night. 17. When I came out of the pancake stall, it was a little brighter, but there was no sun. I carried the pancake, leisurely looking around. So there are so many breakfast shops near the school. I used to only rush back and forth to school. I didn't notice it at all. There were pancake stalls, steamed bun shops, Guangdong rice noodles. Suddenly, I had an idea. Since I can come out, why not do breakfast deliveries? The key is that there are few commuting students in our class. The market competition pressure is also small. After returning to school, I handed the breakfast to Mia. Then I gathered the ideas of the students around me. They were also very cooperative. Soon, they handed me 4 power banks and a list full of words. Don't worry, I promise you all will be charged tomorrow. Classmates, please help me take these power banks to the boss of the small shop down there, thanks. After the male student put the power bank in my bag, he turned around and handed me 5 yuan, saying that there was no need to give change. So generous. The female student held the list and read item by item. We've decided. We want 3 pancakes, all with sausage, 1 with radish, and the other 2 without green onions and cilantro. Also, 1 egg and minced meat rice noodles, 1 beef rice noodles with garlic and chili sauce. Have I finished reading it, so fast? Yes, that's all, that's it. We'll give you 1 yuan each for travel expenses. The classmates smiled and said thank you to me, and handed me the travel expenses and meal fees. A pile of coins and change. I looked at the estimated price on the list. I picked up the money next to me and experienced the feeling of counting money until my hands cramped. Until I was carrying the 4 power banks in my bag, and revisited the wall behind the dormitory. I realized that these things in my bag were obstacles to my progress. Mainly because they bumped too much. I put the power bank in the blanket because I was afraid of breaking them. As a result, I tripped and fell when I jumped down. But when I thought of the countless mouths waiting to be fed behind me, I dragged my injured leg. I resolutely embarked on the road to bring breakfast. 18. I didn't expect that I, who got up at 5:45 to work, would also have a bad start. This day, I cautiously pushed open the door and looked around. When I saw that there were not many people in sight, just as I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, a concerned voice came from behind. You're up so early. What are you busy with? I, who got up early, met the early rising dormitory supervisor. This is the destined happiness. My brain came up with a way that wasn't a way in 3 seconds. Turning around to look at her, I pretended to be melancholy and uneasy, and lied without thinking. I'm so bad at studying, I want to come out early and work hard. Speaking to the emotional point, I spoke with emotion, maybe? I don't have as good a brain as others, so I want to get up earlier than others. I originally wanted to act like I was crying, but I thought it was a bit exaggerated. So I lowered my head and bit my lower lip tightly. Mainly because I didn't dare to look at the dormitory supervisor's expression. The air was quiet for 3 seconds. Just when I thought that this clumsy lie was about to be seen through by the dormitory supervisor in a second. She patted my shoulder happily instead, and encouraged me. Good child, that's how it should be, where there's a will, there's a way. I just lack your perseverance. If I had your perseverance, I would have lost weight too. Her smile was full of appreciation. It made me a little embarrassed instead. After exchanging a few pleasantries, I found an excuse to wander away. When I went around to the wall behind the dormitory, there were only stones all over the ground. As for the cardboard box I used as a stepping stone, someone had taken it away. I ran back to take a look, and there was a neat pile of old boxes in the dormitory supervisor's office. Auntie, are you doing a sneak attack? I simply moved a chair to use as a stepping stone. Wait until the big class and then come back to take it back, again and again. When I climbed the wall and looked back, I saw the auntie running hard on the playground while no one was around. I suddenly remembered her conversation with me just now. Well, how should I put it? I'm studying and helping people bring breakfast to make life better. Well, so, are they similar? But even getting up early to study can't let me have enough to eat right now. Forget it, don't think so much. Good luck, dormitory supervisor. Good luck, breakfast delivery person. 19. I also became familiar with the shop owners at the bottom of the slope. Although I don't buy much every day. But it's a fairly stable source of customers. Over time. Every day, I just need to write a shopping list first, tear it into many pieces, and then give it to different merchants. They will do it and wait for me to pick it up. Those bosses sometimes give me some fan benefits. Such as new product tasting. They would give me a little to try. Sometimes I eat it myself, sometimes I bring it back for everyone to try. This can also save some money on breakfast milk. They asked me, aren't you tired from running up and down every day? I shook my head and showed them my increasingly strong biceps. It's good for my health, it's not a loss. They smiled and put an extra bag on the things they were about to hand me. Be careful, it's hot. Although eating these things can save some money on milk. But I'm no longer the student who had a 5 yuan meal fee a day. After nearly a month of hard work, I can now afford to eat 10 yuan a day. I can earn a stable 15 or so every day by helping others bring things. Even if I eat 10 yuan a day, I can still save some every day. There are now about 100 yuan in the little treasury. This is growth. You see, as long as you are willing to get up early, climb the wall, and go the small way to help others buy things, you can earn living expenses. Life seems complicated, but it can also be simple. Little Liang, here's your pancake pot. Little Hu, your fooding meat slices, don't worry, I've definitely added spicy this time. Mia, your special deluxe version of pancake, no green onions, right? Li Xuan, I feel like your 4 power banks are getting hotter and hotter, I feel like they're going to explode if you charge them every day. Pay attention, don't let them explode on me one day. This is a conversation that took place on many mornings after that. My customers have expanded from inside the class to outside. I also changed my bag from home to another one. It was originally my dad's for hiking, super big. Fortunately, my dad abandoned this hobby because he thought it was tiring. He even forgot to take this bag. But it was convenient for me. As for my old school bag, it wasn't broken. But because it couldn't fit. Ever since I changed my school bag, I felt that the resident school leaders at the school gate were a little unhappy with me. One day I was carrying a lot of things back to school again. When I passed in front of him, I felt a sense of oppression. Was he going to check my bag? Wouldn't I be ruined if I was caught? It's not a big deal if I'm ruined. The main thing is that it's a hassle if others can't eat breakfast. My hands couldn't help but nervously pinch the bag. My heart was about to jump out of my chest. Until I heard the school leader say to the principal who came to visit the class. Principala. Look, the students now carry so many things at every turn, where does our school have so much homework to write? The principal glanced at me and smiled, it does look a bit like a big bag. The school leader babbled on, more than that, I think it looks like a bomb. It wasn't until I was completely far away from them that I breathed a sigh of relief. Saying that my bag looks like a bomb? It's such a big bag, so what he said is true. It's just that when I go to the battlefield in the future, others throw bombs at the opposite side. I throw pancakes at the opposite side. Isn't this a reward? 20. I was amused by my own thoughts. Sometimes I also feel that the bag on my back is really hot. Warm. Like now. Although I'm wearing less, I don't feel cold at all behind me, it's warm. It's just a little wet. Wait. What's wet? I reached back and touched the bottom of the bag. It really leaked. The soy milk wasn't covered well, it all spilled in the bag. That day I wanted to announce that I couldn't bring it anymore the next day. I had to wash the bag. But when the classmates heard it, they were very loyal. They selected a lucky person from the waiting dinner queue. Lent me a school bag. When she handed me the school bag, the girl said very embarrassedly, "Don't worry about getting it dirty, just give me a spot, and I'll have to trouble you to bring me that." Because there were too many people asking me to bring things. I really couldn't bring them all. So now you have to queue up to ask me to bring things, first come, first served. Of course, no matter how many things I bring for one person, the travel fee I receive per person is still 1 yuan. I looked at the pile of lists and the other person's school bag in front of me. I couldn't help but support my forehead and smile bitterly. Mia patted my shoulder and said that I was the hope of the whole village. I nodded. I silently glanced at my gradually formed biceps. I don't produce food. I'm just the whole village's porter. Turning around, Mia handed me a pancake and a steamed dumpling. "For you, you've worked hard." I happily took it. 21. Actually, many classmates are very good. Clearly they could immorally but reasonably report the list to one person, and then ask that person to find me to buy a lot of things. This way, the travel fee I receive will only be 1 yuan. It will only cost 1 or 2 cents per person. But they didn't. That day I was about to return to the classroom from outside. Suddenly I heard my name. "You're talking about Annie." I carefully glanced into the class. A group of classmates were in the classroom, talking about me. At first, it was all unimportant things. Until they talked about me helping to buy breakfast. I stood outside the door, but I didn't dare to go in. When they were talking about the travel fee, someone said, "We can tell everything we want to eat to one person, and then ask him to talk to Annie. This way we will only need 1 yuan in total, it's super cheap." The male classmate who asked me to bring power banks most often scoffed. "Are you stupid? Even if it's theoretically possible, do you have no morals?" Others also stood up for me. "Isn't this freeloading on other people's labor? We can't become evil capitalists." "Yeah, it's very excessive to think like that, others are helping you bring things. If you don't want to pay, then don't ask them to bring it." There were other people agreeing. I also heard Mia's voice. "Annie, she even took on copying so many words for 5 yuan before. I feel like it's because she had a fight with her parents and didn't get living expenses. We're all classmates, let's help each other if we can. Anyway, it's only 1 yuan to help bring, it's not a loss." The classmate who came up with that idea at first was silent. I, who was outside the room, was also silent. I stood in the corridor and suddenly felt a warmth in my heart. "I'm so touched. I'll give you free delivery tomorrow." Turning around, I wiped away the tears that accidentally secreted from my lacrimal glands. At this time, I had 400 yuan on me. That was what my mom and an aunt gave me last week. 22. Every time on vacation, I asked many people for information about my parents. Finally, I heard from a familiar aunt that my parents had gone north with my younger siblings. It seems that my dad met another girl with his talent. I heard people say that my dad is getting married again. A fresh divorced painter with children. He actually turned into a popular figure in the matchmaking world. It's only been 2 months since my parents divorced. I used the aunt's phone to call my mom. I thought it would be the same as mine and not be able to get through. I didn't expect that as soon as I called, I heard my mom's voice ringing. "Hello, Shufan, why are you calling me? My new studio opened in Beijing, are you coming to visit? I'm waiting for you." I held the phone and called out, "Mom." The next second, the phone hung up. I looked at the aunt, at a loss. She sighed and took the phone. After sitting for a while, I said I was leaving. The aunt stopped me and asked me to sit in the living room for a while. The aunt stood up and walked into the bedroom. Before entering the room, she was going to turn off the screen. But the phone button was not very responsive, it went out for a moment, and then lit up again the next second. It didn't turn off. The aunt didn't notice either. The phone screen was on, and there was a transfer of 200 yuan on it. My eyesight was very good, and I saw the messages clearly. My mom said she had no money, and could only give 200 at most. Mom told the aunt not to let me contact her anymore in the future. She said that they had a new life. The screen went off. It seems that I really can't count on my parents. I don't know if my younger siblings are doing well with them, who are so carefree. The aunt gave me 400 yuan. I didn't want it. She said, "This 400 is what your mom wanted to give you. Your mom is just starting a business now, and she has difficulties, she loves you, she's just too busy. You be more considerate, and after the college entrance examination is over, Auntie will take you to see your mom." The aunt spoke very nicely. But the lies wrapped in sugar are even more sad. If I hadn't seen the hurtful words, I would have believed it. But I just happened to see it. I didn't know what to do. So I had to follow the needs of life, took the money, and thanked the aunt again and again. I thought that when I have money in the future, I must return this money to her. I will also return the previous support money to my parents. At that time, I must proudly say, "See, I can be very promising without you supporting me." Back at school, I worked harder to buy more things for others. They don't want me, I can only rely on myself. But because of this, I can't be sad and depressed. Cheer up, Annie. 23. As my reputation spread wider and wider throughout the school, more and more people asked me to bring things. Someone gave me a nickname, Breakfast Porter. They said that the breakfast at the bottom of the slope can only be regarded as a semi-finished product. I asked why. Because you have to bring it up to eat, that's the mature breakfast. I was deeply silent about this. Others call my class seat the human breakfast shop base. Call our class the resource class. Because our class not only has me to help bring breakfast. There are also people who buy a lot of power banks to do a rental business. There are even people who resell the answers to the weekly customized practice papers at a high price. Actually, this thing is not all stolen. It's the top student in the class, stealing this week's practice papers to do last week, checking the mistakes after doing them, and then selling the answers. Our class also has 800-meter and 1,000-meter physical test substitutes, etc. As long as you have the help you want in school, just come to our class. Considering this, I'm actually considered a good citizen among them. After all, what I'm doing is the simplest, and the business that is least likely to be punished if caught. However, people take food as their heaven. I had to grit my teeth and accept this heavy wealth. After many trips back and forth, everyone began to become tacit with me. Every day, just come to my seat to write all kinds of lists of things they want to eat. Write down your name and class, and then leave the money. When I send the food over the next day, I calculate the number of goods that can be delivered, and my list for tomorrow will be closed. Some people also pre-order breakfast for the day after tomorrow. For a while, there was a smell of rice in the class. When the teachers came in, they were asking if the cafeteria was getting better, and it was the first time they saw us packing food back to the classroom. The classmates smiled without saying a word. However, if you walk by the river often, you will get your shoes wet. 24. That day, I brought 3 red bean buns, 2 servings of fried dough sticks, 2 bags of fried buns, 4 siumai, 1 wonton, and 3 servings of rice noodles. Because these things were not in the same place, I spent a lot of time in trouble. When I got to school, I was going to be late in a minute. The crowd was crowded. I almost bumped into the resident school leader, and I quickly took a few steps to the side. The school leader, however, went against the usual constant state of troops. He walked towards me. I limped and planned to get through. But he quickly stopped me. "This classmate. Please stop." The school leader quickly walked up to me. He looked down and asked me with a smile, "Is it cold today?" "It's cold," I pretended to be calm. The school leader narrowed his eyes and looked me up and down. "Really? It shouldn't be. From a distance, I saw your bag steaming." I looked back. A white smoke was rising slowly from the gap in my bag. I came out too hastily just now. The bag for the food and the school bag weren't closed well. I tried hard to give the school leader a smile. "Would you believe me if I said it was the vigor of an 18-year-old? The school leader gave me a blow. "Do you think I'm a fool?" He led me aside while babbling. "I've been observing you for a long time. Is there contraband in your school bag? You're not learning well at such a young age. Come. Let me see what's in your bag." He opened my bag with one hand and took out the things inside one by one. "Did you hide cigarettes? You say you're a student." Fried buns, and siumai, rice noodles?" Finally, the school leader took out the last red bean bun from the school bag, and asked me with a serious face, "Are you treating the school as a place for you to sell breakfast?" Fortunately, I didn't help anyone bring a power bank today. He took out a piece of paper and a pen from the security room, trying to get from my mouth who these things were brought for. He rubbed his palms, seemingly about to start the joint punishment that had not appeared in the school for a long time. "Who are these things for?" It seems that there have been no punishment performance for a long time. I heard that he was the newly appointed vice principal this year. A new official has 3 fires. The first fire is to make fun of me. I pretended to be calm. "No, I'm eating it all myself. I'm at the age where my body is growing, and I have a bigger appetite." After several back and forth, the school leader didn't get any news from me. Even if he said he would punish me. I'm a person who bravely takes on the responsibility. I will definitely not say who the accomplices are. Moreover, people trust me so much and give me the money, I can't do things that sell people out. In fact, punishment is not that terrible. Moreover, punishment can be eliminated as long as the grades are good. As long as you keep the good customers. Even if I am caught today, there will be a time to make a comeback tomorrow. As long as you keep the green hills, you won't be afraid of running out of firewood. 25. That day the corridor was full of people. I sat next to the security room, with food all over the place. I was broadcasting the campus eating broadcast unhurriedly. After a round of verbal battle, the school leader finally decided to give me punishment. But he can't directly throw away those foods either, it's too wasteful. He let me solve it outside the security room, supervised by the security guard. No things allowed to take inside. This leader is also quite good. I started eating during the early reading just now. In the past, I would have sent those foods to customers. But something went wrong today. Those people were probably pacing back and forth in the classroom in a hurry. I don't know who notified them, saying that I was seen at the school gate. They poured out. Many people stood on the corridor of the teaching building opposite. I heard a distant call. Eat a few more rice noodles, don't waste them. Eat the fried buns while they're hot. Eat a few wontons, Annie. These voices are too familiar, they are the original owners of these foods. I gave okay gestures towards the distance. Finally, as expected, I swept a meal. I felt so full that I didn't have to eat tomorrow. Taking advantage of the security guard's line of sight moving to the side, I tried hard to put 3 red bean buns into my clothes pockets, and covered them with the coat on my body. After returning to the classroom, I sent the 3 red bean buns to their owners. Then I took advantage of each break time to return the meal fee and the travel fee attached to the meal. Someone asked me why I was returning it. I counted the money and answered casually. Because I didn't send the things to people's hands, and I ate all the things, it's right. They were very touched. Said they would still ask me to run errands in the future. I was greatly touched and said with a smile, definitely. But I knew that I could no longer do the work of running errands. The school renovated the new teaching building, and by the way, renovated the wall. A circle of iron mesh was added to the top. I would be stabbed to death if I went up. 26. The following Monday, I received a punishment notice. A lot of people rushed up to comfort me, saying, even if you're punished, you're the best purchasing agent in our hearts. I laughed and played with them. Only when it was quiet at night. I hid in the quilt, counting the existing money. Subtracting the money that was returned because it couldn't be bought. Adding the 400 yuan that the aunt gave me. Adding the money earned recently. Subtracting the 200 yuan paid for the cafeteria and some miscellaneous expenses. I have a total of 400 yuan left. It's okay, I can save some and last for 2 more months. It's April now, and I should be on vacation in more than 2 months. I'll do some summer work. I'll go do some winter work in the winter vacation. The living expenses for the senior year of high school is not easy to get. Easy. That's what I said. But life is really frugal. Everything has to be used sparingly. But I'm also very happy, because the students around me are very friendly. Talking about the sky and the earth, the time to fight together. I think I will never forget it. Some people's life is sweet with bitterness, and some people's life is to make fun in bitterness. But please be sure to believe that since it is life, there will definitely be sweet and happy times. Be sure to grasp it well and feel it well. 27. The day I realized it was my 18th birthday. I was writing a question in my seat. The classroom suddenly went dark. I looked up, but suddenly realized that the people around me were looking at me. At the door of the classroom, Mia and other classmates walked in with a cake. They put the cake on the podium. Pulled me to the podium. The melody of the birthday song suddenly sounded. In the light yellow light of the candles, the classmates sang happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Say goodbye to all the troubles, say hi to all the happiness. I made a wish under the eyes of everyone. I wish that I could meet such good people in my future life. The moment the candles were blown out, the firelight went out, and the lights in the classroom lit up again. I saw the smiles on their faces. Warm, like the sun. Is this what 18 years old is like? I suddenly remembered that I was originally studying a year late. After finishing the 1st grade, my parents transferred me to another school. The teacher in the new school felt that I looked too small and suggested that I stay back a grade. My parents were busy with other things and happily agreed. So I'm older than other classmates. It's a good thing I stayed back. That way I can meet very good everyone. That afternoon after school, I asked the teacher for leave and took my phone home. If today is my 18th birthday, then the 18-year-old surprise that Grandma said must also appear. 28. When I rushed to the door of the house, I happened to bump into a person who was holding a bunch of flowers and checking the address. Seeing me, the person tentatively asked, "Are you Annie Carter?" I nodded, surprised. She told me something even more surprising, "This is from your grandma. Happy birthday." After the person's explanation, I learned the origin of this bunch of flowers. It turned out that before Grandma left, she had entrusted the flower shop that she loved most in her life. When I was 18 years old, she would send a bunch of flowers she personally selected to school to me. The greeting card on the bouquet said, "Happy birthday, Annie." This is the surprise of 18 years old. For the rest, see you at the old place, small treasure chest. I took the bouquet. After the people from the flower shop left, I closed the door. Finally, I couldn't stop the tears. When I thought of Grandma looking at the calendar a few years later with her reading glasses on her phone. When I thought of that scene, I couldn't help but miss her. Missing is a river, the water is flowing and never ending. After crying for a while, I remembered to find the old place, small treasure chest. After putting the flowers from Grandma well, I immediately took a taxi to Grandma's house. I haven't been to Grandma's house for a long time. I usually come a few times a year. I was too busy this year, I only came at the beginning of the year. The old place that Grandma and I stayed in most often was the attic of Grandma's house. Because you can see the stars there, I'm lying in Grandma's arms. This is my childhood. If people turn into a star in the sky after death, I pray that you become the brightest one. My parents rarely come to Grandma's house, once a year. They only activity on the first floor. Every time I come to Grandma's house, I only clean, walk and sit on the first floor, and never go up. I'm afraid of being touched by the scene. The more I looked at it, the sadder I would be. Even now, I had to hesitate for a long time before I was willing to go to the attic. The moment I stepped in, I saw the moonlight illuminating the floor. A small box was quietly placed there. Like Grandma quietly stood there, seeing me come, and said with a smile, "Annie, you're here." There was a combination lock on the box. I almost without thinking entered my birthday. Clang. The lock opened. Inside was a letter. I picked it up, but found that there was also a bank card underneath. I took out the letter paper. "Annie, happy birthday. Even if Grandma is gone, you can't cry, you have to be as positive as before, and make your life colorful. This 50,000 yuan is for you to go to college. If there is anything urgent, use it first. Don't spend money uncontrollably like before. Forever loving, Grandma." The letter was short, but the love was long. "Grandma, I haven't been spending money extravagantly for a long time. I will always love you too, Grandma." 29. Until I graduated from the 3rd year of high school. I only talked to my parents a few times. It was when I was at the Public Security Bureau to move my household registration out. Fortunately, Grandma left me a house, letting me become an independent householder. During the conversations on the phone, the three of us were calmly as strangers. Our family of 5 eventually became 3 household registration books. After that, they hung up the phone, completely leaving my life. Before graduating from the 3rd year of high school, because of excellent grades, the school leader revoked my punishment. He muttered that the school cafeteria has changed to a new team now. There should not be as outrageous a situation as I did at the beginning. I smiled and said nothing. I tried the new cafeteria, it's cheap but still not appetizing. My successor is probably gearing up. After graduation, I went to do 2 months of summer work. In the last month, I took the address I got from someone and went to see my dad and my mom. I didn't meet them. Just looked at their recent situation from a distance. They were all fine. My younger siblings have grown taller. Looking at their smiles from a distance, I suddenly felt an unprecedented ease. Great, we've all grown up. I'm relieved to see that my younger siblings are doing well. I'm also doing very well. Let's end that unsaid goodbye here. I don't have to worry about you anymore. Maybe in the future when I walk on the street, I'll meet a very familiar stranger. After getting to know each other, we take out our ID cards and find with surprise that the first 6 digits of our ID cards are from the same place. At that time, I must be promising at a young age. Then, let's talk about it then? Now. I wish us all to live happily in our own lives.